sent Orson's gun clattering to the floor. Now let's talk about this word, clatter. Clatter is another noise, and it's actually pretty similar to rattle, which we just discussed in the beginning of the story. The difference is clatter is louder, and it implies that there's some impact, a lot of impact happening. Things are hitting each other repeatedly. Now let's see what the difference is between rattle and clatter by using clatter in some sentences. Let me put it up here. Clatter. Here's the situation. John was in the kitchen washing dishes. But in the living room, Mary could hear the clatter of the dishes. That should be a familiar sound to you. Did you ever hear that? Like a lot of dishes being washed? I used to live above a restaurant, and I could hear one of my windows faced their kitchen down below, and I could always hear them washing the dishes, all of the dishes clattering together. That's the noise. That's clatter. So Mary could hear the clatter of washing dishes. She could hear the clatter of washing dishes from the kitchen. Let's change a word here. Let's say the clatter of tools. So Mary could hear the clatter of tools from the kitchen. So maybe there's a plumber working on something, and you can hear all the tools hitting each other or hitting things. Let's change another word. Let's say from the garage. She could hear the clatter of tools from the garage. And now maybe somebody's in the garage fixing something. You can hear all of the things coming together. Let's change something else. Let's say the clatter of machines. She could hear the clatter of machines from the garage. She could hear the clatter of machines from the garage. All right, let's try another example. Mike is staying in a hotel, and the window of his room is directly on the street. And he could hear horses walking in the street. So you might be familiar with that sound if you have ever stayed in a city where they sometimes use horses to click, clop, click, clop, click, clop. That could be classified as clattering. So he could hear the clatter of horses in the street. He could hear the clatter of horses. Let's see. He could hear the clatter of horses coming from the street. Let's change some words. Let's say activity instead of horses. He could hear the clatter of activity from the street. What do you think that means if you say he could hear the clatter of activity? Maybe people opening and closing doors, people moving big heavy things and they fall. So people walking, all kinds of noises people are making in the street, and you can call that clattering. Okay, so we've got he could hear the clatter of activity coming from the street. Let's change another word here. Let's say hallway instead of street. He could hear the clatter of activity from the hallway. So now maybe we understand that there are people, a lot of people walking in the hallway, opening and closing doors, dropping things and picking things up. Maybe it's the elevator door opening and closing, all kinds of noises like that. Let's change another word. Let's say housekeeping. He could hear the clatter of housekeeping coming from the hallway. So now we understand it's the housekeepers with their carts. Maybe they're very noisy. They're opening and closing doors, and you can hear the cart also. All right, let's move on.